Riot's MMO is not dead. Good news, good news.
Well, we're all down for some lighthearted fun, right? See, I have a lot of other interesting topics to cover, including stuff like Arena doing pretty well or League of Legends reworking their items again. But this one has funny potential. And that's all because Riot's MMO has a funny history. The announcement of the MMO itself was as unofficial as possible. It all started with a simple tweet. And since then, there were no official announcements about it. And still, occasionally we got an interview, even though no one should even know that this game exists. And just like that, the hype around the game was slowly rising as people were thinking about what the game could be about. Which, as we all know, is definitely a double-edged sword. Regardless, the hype kept rolling
Thought they put pickles in here.
until the game was delayed, even though it never even got an official release window. And that was all while I made one
I
too
miss it
many
getting
videos
delayed, though.
about this. And yes, after we got the official tweet of Riot's MMO resetting, all the hype went down. And I mean, it got absolutely annihilated. After which, no one heard anything about this project. But now, something interesting rose to the surface. It's nothing massive, so don't be surprised if it's not as big as you would expect. But regardless, it is funny that this even happened and I am having so much fun covering this. So all of this stems from Wild Rift, the mobile version of League of Legends. Yes, I am as surprised as you are. At this point, I would say that perhaps Wild Rift is a bit underappreciated.
I think I've played. Trying to think. I played Wild Rift when it got released. I don't know if it's good now. It was a bit weird. I remember just playing Garen, and I think if you're used to mobile games like that, it's probably fun. I imagine, but it just felt really janky for me because I'm not used to mobile. I wasn't used to mobile games, and I was relatively used to League. So it felt a bit weird, but I don't know. Maybe I should
in
give
the
Wild
mobile
Rift another go.
space. As a standalone game, it is all pretty good. And Riot is aware of that, which is why they gave Wild Rift its own lore event. This one is full of comic strips, visual novels, and even the occasional cinematic. Even though that one might be lacking on the audio side a little bit. And the jewel of this event crown is the PvE game mode. This is the one that is accompanying all of this, and in many ways it is giving everything cohesion. That's simply because it is based on the canonical events of Callista fighting the Knights of the Iron Order. Now here I have to say that it is a bold move to put such a big lore event into Wild Rift. Not because Wild Rift would have low player base, it is massive, although it might be mostly in the east. But it's because this is not exactly what the entire League of Legends community around the lore would expect. But alas, even Wild Rift is part of League's IP. Now, together with all of this,
mean, I
Wild
respect
Rift
that,
released their
to be
own
fair.
video talking about the
Run it on
entire
other
event.
games.
Most of this is behind the scenes. And above all, it is focusing on the lore that Wild Rift is trying to deliver. Which is also why the beginning of this video sounds like a movie trailer.
We know our players start to get more interested to know more about the champions, and over the years, we've done a lot of work as far as like world building to help players get an idea of where a champion fits in the world.
Of course, the one
That's
who
a sick
talked about
cinematic.
this is Laura, whom you might remember from the original announcement that the lore of League of Legends will get frozen for some time.
We might have to do because I haven't seen a lot of them in a long time, and there's probably a bunch of new ones now. One stream we'll just spend through going, watching WoW cinematics. Not WoW. Well, we could do WoW as well, but League cinematics. I think it'd be fun, be worth it. I know there's some good ones out there, and I want to see what the newer ones are.
Which is exactly what happened. And here she explains that she is the head of creative and IP strategy, which means that she's here to figure out how Riot wants to handle storytelling in League's IP. be it through cinematics, written bios, or possibly events. But above that, the main goal is to make the world cohesive and believable. And with her, we also have Paul, who is the director of the
Good old
creative
Paul.
game production for the League studio. Or, simply said, he works across all the games and makes sure that the different IPs are doing creative things with their gameplay. After which we get a line from Laura which should be printed out and framed on a wall.
A MOBA is not really the best place to tell stories. You know, you have some VO lines, and in the beginning that was pretty much all you had.
Yes, MOBAs are simply not the best at telling stories. However, I wouldn't say they are
of
the
course.
worst, because League of Legends has pulled off some stellar work when it comes to its lore. I mean, look at what they have built over the years. After which it all got frozen, which is followed by a line that really built this channel.
You know, there's still this connection players start to have with the champion, even with so little around them.
Now already, I want to point out one thing. All of this is somewhat teasing that the team handling League's IP knows that League is not the best at telling its own stories. They are aware of this, and so it makes sense for them to try new things in the future. And that doesn't mean just new things around League, like new cinematics for example. Remember, during all the layoffs, it was confirmed that Riot is working on multiple new titles that are
Oh yeah, I remember all those layoffs. That was quite bad. It was in every company, wasn't it? I just know every company just fucked everyone over. What was this? Beyond... I think I've read this before, but beyond live titles, we have projects in the pipeline that we can't wait to get to you when they're ready. Project Al has been making great progress, and we're looking for more opportunities for you to try out the game. Arcane Season 2 is on track for November 2024. Fuck yes. Arcane is sick. Plus, we have a number of projects cooking various stages of R&D. See, I hate that they've used cooking in an actual statement. Like, that actually pisses me off. Because that is where we are today. Like, that is grim. A volume of release will never be massive. We want everything we deliver to be something that you can be proud of and excited to share with your friends. That requires having financial flexibility to be able to take the time to make things that are truly great for players. We know we'll still have occasional misses, but we want those misses to be for the right reasons, not because we prioritized the wrong things that had to rush project out the door before they were ready. Right, okay. So what is Project L then?
In-house, of which at
Does he
least
talk about that?
some of them should be based on League's IP. We learned this after Riot shut down Riot Forge. So this line right here lines up with the fact that Riot is still making new games, some of which should be better at telling stories than League of Legends. And what's interesting is that Laura even confirms that from the perspective of a player, she would like to see the champions get more individual stories. Though as of right now, that still doesn't show. After which Paul talks about the greatest weakness of League's IP.
I will say though, like MMOs will be a bit better than a MOBA for building stories, but they're still not. It's weird with MMOs because most of the time it is fetch and grind, kill, those type of quests. But it is a bit better, I guess. There's no point going too in detail to MMO stories because at the same time, people will do it once, but after that they want to rush through it. So if you're making it too long-winded, then it can just get annoying for the player base. But for the first time playing it is quite fun. So I know you gotta get a good in between where it's streamlined but still offers good story content. So I guess that's where they'll have to try and push it.
To quote him, if you want to understand League's IP, you have to become a bit of a librarian. I can only confirm that.
True.
This is literally
I still need
how
to read
built
the
this channel. There is simply
the
so
Ruin
much
King
to
book.
read
I
at
can't
this
remember what it's
point.
actually called.
But
I know
luckily,
it's about Viego.
eventually Riot made a website and now all the lore could sit in its own place. If only that place was ever updated. Although this still doesn't fix the big issue around video games. The fact is that players don't like to read. And so, Paul continues.
We wanted to find a way to bring them along on the journey without distracting what they normally do in their core gameplay. And that's why we wanted to package these 3 Shadow Isles characters in particular who have relationships with each other and find a way to bridge how they're all being released together in a way that feels natural and cool to players.
See, now you may be wondering, how does all of this link up to Riot's MMO? Well, we'll get there in just a second. The point is, here, Wild Rift is trying a new strategy when it comes to its story. Whenever a new champion joins this game, Riot wants them to tie into a story. And so, the players can either choose to experience all of this passively, or they can engage with the comics and the visual novels, and this will give them a little bit more of an active story. The funny thing about this is that the League used to have this exact strategy. They did this quite a few times in the past, and then they stopped doing this. Be it during the Ruination, when they tied 3 different champions together, or Yone and Lilia during Spirit Blossom, and the story setups date back all the way to Silas. Again, all of these were based on us getting some cool stories with it. And then it got frozen. But lastly, Paul adds that if the players want to have even deeper connection with this story, they should read the novel, which of course the entire event is based on. And if you have already read it, well, at least now you have a different angle on the events that happened in this book. Not to mention that all of this now has a visual side.
I have viewed it as a good book, to be fair.
If we want to talk about the novel, we should go directly to the author. And this is where we get to the shift. This is where we get the grand reveal, the spark of hope, the dawn to break the dusk. It is Anthony Reynolds who comes onto the stage.
Hi everybody, I'm Anthony. I'm a senior principal writer here at Riot. I work in the R&D space on the Riot MMO, Riot MMO, Riot MMO.
Riot MMO?
That is the line. That is the golden ticket. That is still totally healthy for my mental state, right? Yes, funnily enough, with no official statement ever recorded, we have an official confirmation in an official video that someone is working on Riot's MMO. The hilarious thing about this one is that this is technically our first ever official announcement on an official social media that confirms Riot's MMO being in production. Or maybe not literally production, just that someone is working on it.
I know Ghostcrawler is left now,
after
yeah.
Tryndamere announced the reset. And yes, I know that this is not the biggest news to leap off of.
Wait, what does that message actually say? After a lot of reflection and discussion, we've decided to reset the direction of the project some time ago. The decision wasn't... as someone I wasn't. This decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The initial vision just wasn't different enough from what you can play today. We don't believe you all want an MMO that you played before with a Runeterra coat of paint to truly do justice to the potential of Runeterra and to meet the incredibly higher expectations of players around the world. We need to do something that truly feels like a significant evolution of the genre. This is a huge challenge, but one that our team Why can't I speak? But one that our team of deeply passionate MMO players and game development veterans is incredibly motivated to pursue. I mean, that's fair. There is most of the newly released stuff is all relatively the same and all published by Amazon, it seems. But yeah, it is a lot of the same old shit now. I don't know what you can do different there. Right, the only one that I've seen is doing stuff different is Ashes of Creation, and I don't know much about that, to be honest. Which means we got some more videos to react to at some point. But we will look into Ashes because from what I've heard, I'm excited for it. Probably not as excited as the Riot MMO, but this MMO is going to take ages, a lot longer, so we haven't really got a choice.
announced the reset.
Yeah.
And yes, I know that this is not the biggest news to leap off of, but there is slightly more to this. Ever since the reset was announced, people simply proclaimed Riot's MMO dead, and that nobody is working on it anymore. Or at least, not with the same passion they used to have. But that's not really true. I mean, on Twitter, I made a joke about it, and quite a few people who work on Riot's MMO liked it and retweeted it. So the Riot MMO team is still going wild, it's just that most of it is happening behind the scenes. Now, of course, in this video, you may listen to Anthony Reynolds explain how he started on League of Legends, where he wrote Kallista's story, who later became a very key character for a really big story arc. But the truth is that Anthony Reynolds is not only a veteran for the League of Legends lore, he's also responsible for some of the most badass stories in this universe. He is responsible for the Ruination novel as well as the Garen novella. This guy knows how
There's
to
a
set
Garen
up
novella?
an awesome world. So if you have him on the MMO team after all the
I need to read
layoffs
that.
and after all the resets, this world is still in amazing hands. And yes, fun fact, when I did the interview with the MMO team, guess who was there? But yes, that's really what I wanted to talk about in this video. In the rest of this video, they talk about the PvE game mode that was put into Wild Rift, they explain the context behind the canonical events, and they talk about how excited they are about what Wild Rift can do to the story of League of Legends. Which, sure, that is something to be excited about to a certain degree, but I don't think this is what the League of Legends community expected when Riot said that the new story is gonna be better. I mean, it all sounds good on a paper, but I'm not sure if nothing is still better than something. And what doesn't help is that Riot MMO moves back another 10 years.
Okay, let's go. I'm looking forward to it, chat. It's gonna be good.